nations. They're de-dollarizing right now, and they're going to be going to XRP payments. Let me say something about UAE. It's a little bit disturbing. I believe the
Wait,
Rothschilds.
Jim, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be interrupting you a lot tonight, although I know you asked for some more questions to hop in there. And
No, I, I,
um,
I, I like you to participate more and me less. That's all. My
uh,
voice gets
hey,
tired.
sure. Well, I would love for you to comment on XRP. I get messages from several people in our audience who follow it closely, and obviously we did have that announcement from the Trump team yesterday, so perhaps you could touch on that.
Absolutely. Um, okay, I'm going to say something that's very high level and shake things up a bit. The dollar standard is going away. Now, by that I mean the global reserve standard of the treasury bond is going away. And what I think is going to replace it is corporate stable coins that create numerous large bodies of liquidity. And I call it the seven C's. We know what the seven C's are: Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Arctic, whatever, all the oceans. The corporate stable coins are going to replace the dollar as the currency reserve in a sense of like central bank holdings, corporate holdings, insurance company, pension company holdings. We're going to be going to corporate stable coins. Now, on the other side of the global standard, you have payment standards. And the treasury bill is going to go away. And I think it's going to yield to a group. And Trump is calling it the strategic reserve. Well, I've got a different viewpoint of this. He's naming the trade payment standards: XRP, Solana, Cardano, and add HBAR perhaps to that. And why? Because they're so inexpensive and they're so fast. I did a January little cost effectiveness analysis. It was very primitive. Um, and it was 650,000 times faster, cheaper with XRP compared to Swift. Not 650 times, 650,000 times faster, cheaper. Okay, the big banks are going to climb onto that because it's cheaper and it's faster. They're going to have cost savings. What are they going to do? Well, Bank of America and Bank of New York Mellon and a few other big banks have already said they're going to be transferring their assets under management, and it's tens and 20, 30 trillion. Chris, they're going to convert it into stable coin, and the leader is Ripple RLUSD stablecoin. And once it's on the Ripple stablecoin ocean, it's floating in that ocean like the seven seas of the earth. They're going to be like seven corporate entities, and I think Ripple and XRP are going to get the lion's share. I think they're going to get the majority. Okay, once you're in the RLUSD stablecoin, Ripple Lab US dollar, that's going to replace the treasury bond for global reserve standard, I think, along with the other corporate stable coins. Once they're in the Ripple stablecoin ocean, you're going to be using XRP to do your transfers. After we get some clarity in the next month or two, we're going to see Ripple announce how they're going to be expanding from the bank sector. Where in my February reports, Chris, I'm not making this up. I got about 30 lines, and it's about 180 or 200 banks that are all now adopting XRP. 200 banks. In December, it was 6. In January, it was 30. Now it's almost 200. Is that exponential growth or what? And I noticed something. About a quarter of the banks, maybe a little bit fewer, they were Japanese. Okay? Now the Japanese have a law, well, regulatory, dictate. It said that in this year, all Japanese banks must be XRP compliant. They're going to be getting involved in the the Ripple RLUSD stablecoin. You watch Toyota, they're going to make an announcement in the next few months. They're going to make a big commitment, and they're going to put in like, $500 billion of whatever, and they're going to put it into the stable coin of Ripple, and that'll be a guarantee, pretty much a guarantee that they'll be using XRP for trade payment. Do you know of any people who have Toyotas in their garages, of Nissan in their garages, of Honda in their garages, of Hitachi computers or Nikon cameras? Okay, the Japanese are going to be moving whole hog into XRP. The key is stable coins. Stable coins, I keep repeating, it's going to create 7 corporate oceans for the global liquidity. Once they got global liquidity, then they're going to be ready to do transfers. And I think we're going to see a quantum jump when Ripple announces that they're going to be expanding beyond banks to corporate structures. And every big corporation, every big multinational has a big finance department. Not a bank, but it's kind of like a bank within a corporation. Okay, I think we're going to see another quantum jump when Ripple announces that XRP is going to be backed by gold. None of this is going to happen without precious metal backing down the road. They're leaving that out of the equation right now because they got enough bullshit going on with the Security and Exchange Commission. I got word from my best minds, my best colleagues with, the thinkers in crypto land. They said the same thing. The SEC appeal was for a failed court case and a failed appeal. So they got a second planned failed appeal to drive out, I call them the ninnies. Oh, I don't know what's going to go on. I don't think I'm with this SEC again. Okay, they sold. Okay, bye-bye. You can buy back when it's 5. It's like 2.5 now. You can come back when it's 5 and 6, and then you can sell again when you display your ninny characteristics. Okay. This thing, I think XRP is going to go to like 10 to 20 by the end of the year. We're going to see quantum jumps from big important events. XRP is not going to be the only winner. There are going to be other winners. XLM is going to be really important for business to business within countries, and then it'll leak across national lines some. XRP, they're trying to drive, the banks were buying up XRP when the ninnies were selling in the last month. I told like 20 different clients, don't worry, it's going back and testing too. Who gives a crap? Who gives a crap? Got up to 3, now testing 2. Who gives a crap? Started at 50 cents. What's your problem? Oh, if it finds support at 2, you've got only a 4-fold gain since December and November. Get over yourself. Okay, we're going to have other winners, Chris. I think Cardano with its, I don't know a lot about Cardano, but every time I read Cardano, I hear the best security characteristics of crypto. Elon Musk is like dumping on Bitcoin. He's trying to convince. Did you notice in the crypto announcement by Trump, Bitcoin was an afterthought? Oh yeah, and Bitcoin would be involved. Oh, it wasn't in the first 50% of his announcement. So he's moving away from Bitcoin because it doesn't have any IP, intellectual property. It doesn't have contracts. It doesn't have partnerships. It doesn't have adoption. Oh, XRP's big advantage is on-demand liquidity. On-demand liquidity. It means you can never choke on something that's too big coming down the line. I'm putting it in, layman's parlance. These are exciting times, Chris. And, for people who say, oh, I don't like crypto, there's nothing behind it. Those are your stupidest guy in the room. That's your stupidest guy. There's nothing behind it. It's just, right. I don't know what intellectual property is. I don't know what partnerships are. I don't know what the new digital architecture is all about. There's nothing behind it. Okay. You're the dumbest guy in the room. Go to the back of the class and you can buy into it when it's 10 times higher and you realize how stupid you've been. and how stubborn you've been. Okay, this is going to be
Tim,
really
I just
exciting.
appreciate you even had a new facial gesture to demonstrate visually how you feel about people that are
I'm an
like
ninny. I
that.
don't know anything about intellectual property. I don't know what corporate partnerships are all about. Okay, these are your dumbest people in the room. Don't listen to them. Okay, XRP is like a second chance at Bitcoin that went up. It didn't go up just 1,000-fold. I remember when it was 100. Oh no, that's 1,000. What am I saying? It went up 1,000-fold. I think XRP is going to go up several hundredfold from its 50 cent base. I mean, I know it went up to 2 and went back right back down. That's from the SEC frivolous bullshit. Okay, Trump is about ready to announce, I believe, an SEC chairman, and push aside. We know what's really going to happen. The big banks are going to say, "All right, Donald, we've got a good batch of XRP now. You can let it run." We scared out the ninnies. The ninnies sold between 3.2 and 2.0. We got rid of the ninnies. Those dumbasses who didn't figure out that we have an appeal on a failed case with a failed appeal. Right. When I heard about the failed case and a failed appeal and a new appeal, I thought, wow, how obvious is that? What I'd like to see Trump do now is say, we're going to end the lawfare prosecution against Reggie Middleton. It was last summer. I had a little item in my newsletter for helping Reggie Middleton because they're trying to steal his intellectual property. They need to stop what they're doing with Reggie Middleton and enable him to become a major leader and intellectual property holder for the next generation, because Wall Street is trying to steal his IP. And I think we need some vengeful legal reaction to restore Reggie. Because we got an entire revolution in finance coming. You better be on board with it. It's kind of like, I heard this analogy, Chris, and it's really quite strange. Well, I don't like those automobiles. They're smoky and they're loud. And, if you have an accident, all that glass will cut your face. So I'm sticking with my horse and buggy. How'd that work out? Well, there'll still be a market for buggy whips. Don't worry. No, there'll be a market for tires, cars. Okay, you get with the change. I don't like email. I think it's really weird. That's my dad, okay? That's my father. My father, a brilliant literature guy and who's who. I don't like email, Jim. I don't know how to get on that, and I'd rather use the U.S. Postal Service. That's reliable. Okay, Dad, I get it. I get it, Dad. One of the most interesting screw ups that my dad had was he would say, "Jim, I had an accident. I was working on chapter 4 of my book, and I had an accident. I deleted something by accident, and I saved my document, and now it's gone." I said, "Why'd you save your error?" He said, "I didn't want to lose my whole document." So he messed up on chapter 3. He realized that 2 pages out of the 5 are gone because he screwed up with his fingers, fat finger, and he saved his error because he didn't want to lose his book. I said, "Dad, it's like pulling a book off the shelf and putting it into your computer, but it's still on your shelf." And he said, I don't think I'll ever get that. Okay, that's your dinosaur. One time he said to me, "Jim, I know you had a problem with that client. I can mail him if you like. He's in the state of Oregon. I can mail him." I said, "Dad, it's okay." I emailed him. Okay, you get with the technology transfer or you get left behind. I think what's going to happen, Chris, is a lot of people are going to get caught in the old technology, and they're going to realize that their life savings and their pensions are old school, and they took a 30% hit. And there's going to be like this other crowd, like a quarter of us, and they say, I realized a 20-fold gain. I realized a 200-fold gain because I got into XRP. It's going to be really interesting. Um, I have an entire chapter on XRP every month now for the newsletter. I started in November having an XRP chapter. Um, and this month for February, I mean, it's February's over, but for the February report, that's where I got the 3 paragraphs of banks that have adopted XRP. This is going to be very exciting, and there's so much more to say about it. And that's why I think it's a good idea to, go to golden-jackass.com and sign up for the newsletter, support my work, and start off reading the gold chapter for the 47 reasons for the 47th president. And that doesn't show the report, but that shows in yellow the button for signing up. And notice in the upper left, it says February report is posted. And I got a special report for Trump's first month. The lightning quick activity in the first month. And, we haven't even talked about U.S. aid, Chris. I don't think we talked last month. I think last time it was December. I'm not sure. I knew a U.S. aid worker. I knew him. He was a lifelong friend. And here's the funny part about U.S. aid. A lot of people who work in U.S. aid don't know what they do. My friend Peter, okay, just quickly, Chris, when I was 4 years old, my next door neighbor was Peter. Peter and Bobby, and we caught butterflies together. I was 4 and 5, and he was 4, and Bobby was 3, and we were running around like knuckleheads and lunatics catching butterflies with our self-made nets. And other times we played baseball, but Peter wasn't good at baseball. I was good. He would try to catch my fly balls, and I broke my dad's bathroom window once. He got very upset. Anyway, Peter went on to Yale University and was quite a spectacular student, and he did not like the law profession. He stumbled in a law firm, and he said, Jim, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to check a number of weird opportunities out there because there are a lot. What did he do? He got recruited by the CIA, and he got hired by USAID because he was fluent in Russian at Yale University. And I was there when he was a junior. I was doing my thing for a doctoral program, and I only lasted 1 quarter. It's a long story. And I kept up with him. And I asked him, what are you doing for USAID, Pete? He said, well, first of all, I'm freezing my ass off in Moscow, but I go to the nightclubs and I have a good time, so I don't lose my mind. But I have escorted Senator John McCain on 5 occasions. I said, what do? You have him meet with people who interfere with press reporting and do propaganda bull crap? And he said, oh, I don't know what they do. I just introduced them to the Russian. Okay, the point is, Chris, a lot of U.S. aid people don't know what they were doing. It was the upper level. It was the management, not the workers. And I was happy when I heard that they fired the management. They started at the top. They probably fired a lot of, worker bees, and that's fine. Well, Peter resigned. He resigned 7 or 8 years ago after 12, 13 years in Moscow. And I asked, what are you going to do, Pete? He said, I'm moving to Lithuania. It's really nice there. The climate's better. They have a winter, but it's mild, and they speak Russian. And the ladies are really nice in Lithuania. They're not fat hogs like they are in the United States. I said, yeah, true that.
Well, Jim,
Okay.
Or just if I could, because you mentioned a couple things that actually ties back to something you said you would touch on earlier in terms of where this leaves the U.S. and on Tuesday, March 4th, no less. And is this headed towards a restructure in your opinion? And the
Yes, we're
Trump
going
in
to
the
have a
Trump
restructure.
administration.
We're going to have a reformation, a restructure, and kind of an industrial revolution. We're going to get back into making things, manufacturing in the United States.